Welcome to Full Throttle with Father and Son, the podcast where one F1 fanatic teams up with his wine-loving, tennis-playing dad to make sense of the fastest sport on earth.
We started this podcast every Sunday. I ask the questions all new fans ask, like, why build a track in a place where no one can pass? Who decided porpoising was a technical term?
That's right. That's why I've decided to make it my mission to try to convert my dad into a proper F1 fan, and let you guys in along the way on the genius and the madness of this sport.
As a dad, my world is more Grand Slams and Grand Crus than Grand Prix. F1 is new to me, but I'll bring curiosity and lots of interesting questions. Together we break down the sport race by race and one hot take and a crash at a time.
So whether you're a hardcore F1 fan or a curious new viewer looking for a new experience and view on F1, this podcast is for you. There'll be no jargon, no gatekeeping, just good conversation.
This is Full Throttle with Father and Son.
So for the first episode of this podcast, I thought it would be a really good idea to talk about the Monaco Grand Prix, since that just happened today. And that's a pretty controversial and famous race. So I thought it'd be a good idea to kind of discuss how the race went and then think about, how it should change. Today was the Monaco Grand Prix. Lando Norris qualified in pole position, which was a really big get for him because he's not doing so hot in the World Championship right now. And he was able to win the race, which was really great for him because, winning the Monaco Grand Prix is a huge feather in the cap for every driver. It's one of their dreams. It was not the most entertaining race. The organizers of F1 have tried for many years to make Monaco more entertaining. Today they, for the first time, introduced a 2 pit stop requirement, requiring every team to make at least 2 pit stops because they thought that, forcing teams to stop multiple times would kind of help shake it up. That didn't really happen, which we'll discuss more later. Kind of affected the race.
Okay, yeah, cool. Let's get into that. Why do people treat this race like it's such a big deal? What's so important about the Monaco race?
Yeah, so Monaco has this sort of special aura around it that kind of ties it directly to F1. So when you think of a single F1 race, everybody's like, name an F1 race. You're going to say Monaco no matter what, because Monaco dates back to 1929, which is 20 years before F1 even formed as a championship. So it's really like, it's the OG. It's the original race.
That's cool.
So for drivers, it's the biggest deal to win it. All the celebrities show up to the race. It's a crazy experience. All the, expensive restaurants are sold out solid for the whole week. And it's just a huge gathering for the sport.
It's a little bit like Wimbledon, maybe, because I'm a tennis kind of guy, so maybe it sounds a bit like Wimbledon.
Yeah, it's like the biggest event of the year for the sport.
That's cool. That's cool. So tell me a little bit about the track. Like, is the track interesting? Is it fun, or what's special about the track?
So that's the issue with the track. It was originally formed to be on the Monaco streets, which is great because there were these big, wide, streets that went straight through the hotels. They went right on the waterfront. The problem with that was 2 things. First of all, the cars were tiny. It was basically just a driver and an engine in front of him and 4 like bicycle tires side wheels. And we can put up a picture of a 1950s F1 car. They were tiny, and that meant that you could race on these tiny narrow streets, and the drivers could weave in and out and all that. But nowadays, because we don't want drivers to die, the cars are a lot safer. So you've got all sorts of safety structures around you. The tires are a lot wider. The cars are much faster.
Have they gotten bigger too?
Much bigger. I mean, if you compare them, it's like comparing a kid's bicycle to a motorcycle.
Wow.
It's crazy. So in addition to that, Monaco itself has grown a lot. The buildings have gotten taller. They what used to be the shore is now more layers of buildings because they've sort of added more land to Monaco. So the track has evolved a lot, and what that means now is that those same streets that winded their way through the hotels are now basically has become like a single file procession of cars for an hour and a half, and that's why it's become controversial.
Got it. So if the track's like that and the cars have gotten bigger, is it easy to pass on these tracks, or are they pretty much stuck behind one another?
Yeah, it's like I said, it's basically like a parade for an hour and a half. I mean, there's more or less one corner where you have your opportunity.
Yeah.
And, it's, drivers basically just have figured out a way to, block off that corner at every opportunity. And, you can't go very fast because the track is so short. It's a lot of problems that nobody really wants to fix because of the glamour associated with the track. I
Awesome.
mean, nowadays there are all sorts of regulations around the tracks.
Yeah.
So if a track wants to be included as an F1 race, it has to be a minimum length. It has to be a certain width on the home straight with the start
Mm-hmm.
and the finish line. But Monaco keeps getting grandfathered in constantly. It's way shorter, it's way narrower,
Cool.
and it's a big problem.
It's kind of like the lawn tennis, the lawn grass Wimbledon
Yeah.
is the only surface with the lawn tennis. That's interesting to hear that. Why? So then, what's the if it's so hard to overtake on this track? Um, what's the fun of watching the race when you could just watch the qualifying and then people are going to just you know they're just going to finish the same order in which they qualified.
Yeah, so nowadays people pretty much watch the race for the stories.
Uh-huh.
So all these drivers have these super great like character interest stories where it's
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, it's his first ever chance to win a race, and this would be so great for his
Yeah.
career, or oh, this is his last ever chance to win. He's gonna, he's growing old, or this is his last opportunity. Those kinds of stories still make the race entertaining to watch.
Cool.
Human interest. Um, but at this point, it's you pretty much watch it for the spectacle.
Okay.
The crazy helicopter shots of the swimming pools and the hotels and all the yachts in the marina. It's just kind of it's all part of the experience. But the racing itself is less.
Anything significant that happened this week that only an F1 fanatic would notice?
Yeah, I mean, there was that two pit stop strategy,
Uh-huh.
which was really the organizers' first attempt in a long time to try to um, shake up the race a little bit, but it totally backfired. I mean, there was, of course, each team has got two cars, right? So it's in their interest to try to work together to come up with some sort of strategy. So what happened was one team was running their two cars one after the other,
Uh-huh.
and they had the first guy do his pit stop and the second guy drive as slowly as possible around the track on, slower and slower tires and just kind of almost like lead a procession of cars behind him around so that by the time the first guy finished his pit stop, he didn't even lose any places.
Cool.
And then they did it one more time. So, that was something of note in the race, and there were a couple of minor
Cool.
crashes and stuff. But I think that one kind of appealed to interested fans because it was our first way to see if that two pit stop strategy is actually going to change up the race
Cool.
much.
Cool. So, what would you change about the Monaco race?
Yeah, I guess there's a lot of things that could be changed to. I think that would really help more than this pit stop stuff that they've implemented. That's kind of a half measure. I think one is going to happen naturally next year, coming in 2026. One thing to watch out for: there's a big regulation change.
Mm-hmm.
So every few years, they completely overhaul the rules that teams use to design their cars. And one of the rules for next year that they're implementing is they're making the cars much smaller,
Mm-hmm.
probably by as much as like 30%. So that's already going to help with the racing here a lot more. But honestly, I think the best way to make Monaco more interesting is to change the track itself.
Mm.
So, I'm sure Monaco has some, other streets throughout the city that would help if you change the track to run along those wider streets. You would have a much more interesting race. The track has been changed before, it's almost 100 years old at this point.
Wow.
So I think if they kind of let go of the heritage a little bit and focus on trying to make the race itself more interesting by, changing the curves a little bit or adding a few extra turns to allow for some passing, I think the race could be a lot more interesting
Cool.
eventually.
Awesome. Smaller cars, different paths, streets, if you will, and here's to maybe a more interesting Monaco race in the next few years. And we'll learn more about different aspects of racing. And as we get into the future weeks out there, we'll break it down and even get to basic questions like what is a pit stop? Why do they call it a pit stop? And what's the two pit stop strategy versus the first one? But hang out with us. We'll get to some more interesting questions about the next race and whatever's coming next. Do you want to tee up what's going to be on next week's race and how we'll break it down?
Yeah, so next week we've got the Spanish Grand Prix in Barcelona. That's a really fun track, and hopefully there's going to be some interesting action to talk about.
Excellent. Well, so this is our first podcast. If you like what you heard, and we'll cover more ground later, hit the subscribe button, stay tuned as and when podcasts come out. And we'll catch up again with you next week in Barcelona. So we'll see you all then.
Thank you.
Bye. This is Full Throttle with Father and Son.